Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the In-Groove in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I'm going to preview the Record Store Day 2024 list. And like I do every single year, I don't go over every little item on the list. I'm going over the things that I personally am looking forward to and the things as a store I think are going to be very popular. Record Store Day is kind of an anomaly in the sense that I don't know anybody that can call them all right. There's always something that's on the Record Store Day list that takes everybody by surprise. And a month after Record Store Day, it's like, why in the world is that a $200 record? The Macho Man Randy Savage, for instance, from a couple years ago. I ordered a few. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a little bit of a novelty. A couple people would like it. Next thing you know, it's a $200 record. Everybody wants it. They subsequently repressed that 3 or 4 times. But that's an example of something that just took, I think, everybody by surprise. Taylor Swift, the Long Pond Sessions. It didn't take me by surprise on that being popular, but they made 125,000 of them. It definitely took me by surprise a few months after they came out, and even to this day, it's a $300 record. They made 125,000 of them, but it's so in demand that, yeah, it's still a $300 record. Okay, so when I first saw this list, I wasn't disappointed, and that's saying something, because I always go into Record Store Day lists, sometimes skeptical. Not always, sometimes. That doesn't make any sense. But when I look at Record Store Day lists, I always start off like, is it going to be good? I'm wondering if it, like, you know, that's in my mind. It's like, come on, I hope it's a good one. I hope there's a Taylor Swift title on this. Not for me personally, but it's good for Record Store Day. So that's kind of how I look at it. And then after Black Friday, which wasn't the best Record Store Day, I kind of was a little nervous looking at this list. But the first thing I thought of when I looked at it, I'm like, that's not a terrible list. Now, it's been about 24 hours since it's dropped. And it's percolated a little bit more in my brain, and I kind of really, without a Taylor Swift release, this is probably one of the best Record Store Day lists that there's been in a while. And the reason being is there's no huge hitter on this. There's not something that's everyone's gonna line up for. But there's enough good titles on here that are gonna make people wanna line up. And I'll kind of talk about them now. Starting with the most popular and most collected band of all time in the history of vinyl, and that's the Beatles. So anytime you have a Beatles release, that lines people up. Even though these are 3-inch records, so they're made for the little Crosley 3-inch record player, it doesn't matter because they're not doing a ton of them. So they're doing a combo set of the record player, the little 3-inch box, and the 4 records. So the 4 records are, what are they? I Want to Hold Your Hand, Till There Was You, She Loves You, and I Saw Her Standing There. The thing is, they're only making 2,300 of the record player box and 4 record set, and they're only making 1,500 of each of the individual records. A lot of people are going to say, well, it's, you know, it's 3-inch records, nobody listens, who cares about that? But the thing is, the Beatles can make 5,000 rolls of commemorative limited edition toilet paper, and people would go nuts over them because there's so many Beatle collectors that have to own just anything. So the usability of the record itself it matters none. It doesn't matter. There's going to be, 2,300 plus the 15. Is that 4,200? Quick math. Early in the morning. I think 4,200. 4,200 of a Beatles item. It's nothing. It's not a lot. That's not 42. 3,800. 3,800. Where did I go? 500. 3,800. 3,800 of a Beatles item. It's nothing. Like I said, if it was toilet paper, it'd be on eBay. People would be flipping. It'd be going for a lot of money. So, really cool. It's not as cool as, say, some unreleased Lost Archive thing that they just found. But nonetheless, it's very cool. And then there's a lot of cool, just solid titles on this list. Blur's Parklife. It's something that hasn't been around for a while. Now, this is a picture disc, but it's a Zoetrope picture disc. Those are the kind of picture discs to where you put it on your turntable, you look at it with your phone, and you get little designs, things dance. I don't know what this, I would imagine maybe the dogs are racing around the track. I'm not sure what it's going to be design-wise, but the Zoetrope picture discs have become very desirable lately. People love them. The concerts are always particularly popular. And there's some solid ones, you know, the Average White Band, live at the Rainbow Theater, 1974. They're making 1,500 of them. On a side note, this Record Store Day, the numbers have gone down, which is not a bad thing. I know people are going to say, well, you know, it makes it more difficult to get. But the thing is, there's a fine line with Record Store Day. You make too many of something, and then people lose excitement because it's easy to get, you can just wait. You make not enough of something, it pisses everybody off. You make too much of something, the prices crater in the aftermarket, and then people get angry. I lined up, I was there for 6 hours, I waited, I had fun, but I waited, it was cold, it was hot, whatever the case might be, and I could have just got it online after the fact and saved $10 for this record, that kind of thing. So too much is a problem, too little is a problem. They've lowered this, which I think is not good for me, sales-wise, but good overall for Record Store Day. It's going to, that's a good thing. Having slightly smaller numbers overall, making things a little bit more special, a little bit more difficult to get, that's not a bad thing. And it seems like everything overall, according to Record Store Day's website, they've lowered the quantities on a lot of stuff. So the Park Live picture disc, what did I say? 2,000 copies. That's not a lot. 1,500 on the average white band. So we've got the Beatles, we've got David Bowie. They're doing Waiting for the Sky. Now this is 8,000, which again, a lot of the Bowie stuff in the past has been over 10,000. So this is kind of interesting. The blurb on it essentially is it's the working, this was the working album for what ended up becoming Ziggy Stardust. And it includes 4 songs that didn't make the final album. So kind of like I'm not too familiar with it, but it looks like it's kind of the album in progress for Ziggy Stardust, which is, maybe his best album. I think it's his best album. I think maybe the consensus is probably that's his best album. I don't know. You tell me below. But he has a lot of good albums. But I feel like the consensus, that's probably his best album. Little stuff like this. I mean, the Jim Croce, the final tour. It's a Jim Croce. People love the Record Store Day concerts, though. So you got to think about that, too. I mean, I see that. There's 1,800 of them. So 1,800, not a huge number. Just skimming the list. There's a Nat King Cole that's cut by Kevin Gray from 1950, the 1953 Blue Note Chicago residency. I don't know what the sound quality is going to be on it, but it looks really good. Pressed at RTI, cut by Kevin Gray. It's on Iconic Artists Group. I feel like that's probably like one of these labels that have kind of sprouted from Resonance Records. It seems like there's like 5 different, like almost sub-labels. I don't know if they're affiliated or not, but it looks pretty interesting. But it kind of looks like that same type of package as like the Bill Evans have been in the past. Daft Punk 12-inch, not something I personally care about, but I know a lot of people have asked about it. They're doing your customary Dio picture disc, but this one is a Zoetrope, and it's of The Last in Line. So, yeah, that'll be popular. Then there's also The Last in Live. It's picture disc, just standard picture disc, limited to 1,800. One of the titles that got me excited, and not the title I'm the most excited for, but this is definitely in my top 3. That's The Doors, live at Consonhurst. It is a 3 LP box set, limited to 6,000. Oh, that's not enough of a Doors title. I think 8,000 or 9,000 would be light. 13,000 or 14,000 would have been like more normal. But 6,000, if that's the number, this is going to be hot. One thing that I noticed in this, especially after the last Record Store Day release, which was always, if you're like a Doors fan in the know, you know that was a live concert that was not the best sound-wise, but people wanted it because it was a show that all the Doors fans knew that the management had in the archive and just didn't release. So there was like a want out there for that particular show, but not because of sound quality. But it is kind of interesting that in this one that they mention, I'm kind of skimming it now. So it's from a radio broadcast, but it talks about, I thought it did anyway. This is a great sound recording. So they specify in there that the actual recording itself sounds good. But really cool. They do kind of a Alabama song, Mac the Knife. He starts with Mac the Knife. A couple lines of Mac the Knife goes into Alabama song. But there's a live Love Street on this, which is really cool. That was a track that they didn't really perform live very much. Or if they did, it's not been recorded many times. There is bootlegs of this show online. And you can kind of see how it's not horrible, but the bootleg quality is like so-so. I'm curious to see the sourcing and how this ends up coming out sound-wise, but I'm looking forward to that a lot. Let's see, Rumors. There's a Rumors picture disc. You know, I'm not a picture disc fan, but people love picture discs, and let me tell you what they also love. Rumors. I sell Rumors for days. I'm telling you, probably 10% of my business is, you know, Abbey Road, Sgt. Pepper's, Rumors, and Dark Side of the Moon. It's like those albums just constantly sell. They're doing 7,500 of them on a picture disc. It will be popular. Let's see. There's tons of stuff in here I could see myself actually wanting, but it's like I want to kind of, you know, like I got to rein it in a little bit. Running out of space on the old shelves. So we've got Beatles releases. There's 2 George Harrison releases, which again, Beatles fans want everything Fab related, and these are going to be no exception. They're 2 George Harrison Zoetrope picture discs. God, even the Beatles faithful aren't necessarily loving electronic sound, you know. When I get copies into the store, they're always typically in like pretty minty shape. They weren't typically played a lot, and Wonderwall Music, but they're both Zoetrope picture discs. I'm assuming most people are going to just, I don't know, that might get open just so people could see the design. But I feel like a lot of those are going to be bought, collected, but left sealed. There is your typical Grateful Dead 4 LP box set that comes out. It seems like every record store day, and with the amount of Grateful Dead recordings that are out there, I'm thinking that's something that we could see for the rest of at least my lifetime. That is a record store day Grateful Dead concert being released. Let's see. This is a complete show from October 16th, 1989 for the first time on LP. Yeah. Let's see. So there's the Grateful Dead, there's the Jerry Garcia Band, June 10th, 89 show, Electric on the Eel. Always popular. Not my thing personally, but I always order them in Quan because they're popular. On a side note, I'll mention it to you guys, but you probably already know. We have the event. We open up at 8 o'clock Saturday morning on Record Store Day. Saturday. Brain fart. Thinking Friday because of Black Friday. But we open Saturday morning for Record Store Day at 8 a.m. Anything that doesn't sell in the store throughout the entire course of the day will go up the following morning. I think it's 6 or 7 o'clock Eastern time in the morning the following day. But I'll have it posted as we get a little closer. All right. Chris Isaak, Beyond the Sun. It's a repress of an album that's not that old, but the record itself, the original, is over $100. An Iggy and the Stooges concert from 2005. I mean, that'll be popular. There's some good blues titles. Howlin' Wolves live in Europe. It's at 1,500 copies. A lot of like light quantities on a lot of these titles. There's just a lot of that. Let's see. Some good jazz titles. Your typical Resonance packages, you know, like the Bill Evans. There's a couple of those. I'll get to them, but this looks like a candid release. Charles Mingus, Reincarnations to 3,400. These are typically all analog, cut by Bernie Grundman. In the beginning, the vinyl quality on those was pretty like, it was rough. Feel like the last couple of titles, they're using a different pressing plant or something, but they're significantly better. See a 2 LP set of Willie Nelson, Phases and Stages. A Nico concert, Tokyo 86, just skimming. The Paramore release, this is wide, never been on vinyl. They're the Record Store Day ambassadors. This will be quite popular. Let's see. Pearl Jam, Dark Matter. There's a special, kind of like, who did that a couple years back? The Red Hot Chili Peppers did it, to where they released like 9 different versions, and then Record Store Day got one as well. But they're doing the same thing for Pearl Jam's Dark Matter. Here's one that I think a lot of people might sleep on. I absolutely love Dave Pike, The Doors of Perception. This is kind of a... Dave Pike did Songs for the Jet Set. That was a Record Store Day release from a while back. Really good. I'm not actually familiar with this particular record. I don't have it. His stuff is really difficult to get on vinyl, and most of it hasn't been reissued. Let's see. Recorded in 66, released in 1970 by Fame Jazz Vibraphonist. But I'm looking forward to this. I really love all of it. I've never listened to a Dave Pike record that I don't like, so I'm looking forward to that. Let's see, there's some hip hop, which I know nothing about, but they tend to be the more popular titles for Record Store Day. Queen 7-inch Cool Cat, but you know, there's 2,000 of them, so it's not like there's going to be a ton of them just clogging up all the stores. This I'm looking forward to. The Ramones, the 1975 Sire demos. The Ramones releases are always, like, I always enjoy the Ramones releases. They're one of the few Record Store Day releases. The Doors, there's a few others, but I continually go back to them and play them because a lot of them are just really good concerts. There's a live replacements show. Another Rolling Stones special colored vinyl release, but not a $100 bill, I'm hoping this time around. It doesn't look like it's going to be. So this is the Rolling Stones first album, you know, UK version of their first album. I'm assuming this is mono, doesn't specify. But they're doing 6,000 of them. Let's see, it includes a litho and stamp numbering on the jacket. I thought it was a, let me see, yeah, a black and blue swirled vinyl. That's pretty cool. That's going to be really hot. Swirl vinyl Rolling Stones, especially that it's not going to be a $100 record. Let's see. God, there's so many good titles. This is a really good list. There's just so many things that maybe people aren't going to be like, you know, you might not want to, you know, line up for 5 hours for the Linda Ronstadt Asylum albums, but there's a good chance that's still going to be really popular. There's just a lot of that really solid stuff that is going to attract people. The Todd Rundgren Todd, the Nancy Sinatra, the Sisters of Mercy. There's so many of those like really solid titles, while still having a lot of titles that I think are going to draw people to the store to line up. So let's see. Oh, and this is probably my absolute, God, I want to say this is my favorite release. So this is the Talking Heads live at WCOZ 1977. Half of this concert has been released as part of that 2LP. The first, before Stop Making Sense, the first Talking Heads live album. One of my all-time favorite bands. The tracks that have been released, you know, already sounded fantastic, so there's no reason to believe this whole concert doesn't sound fantastic. Early Talking Heads. This is going to be fantastic. I just can't wait for this. This is going to be good. Set list is awesome. Pulled Up, Psycho Killer, you know, Book I Read. I'm excited. That's got to be my number one want. They're doing this is Talking Heads adjacent. The Tom Tom Club, Genius of Love, 2001 remixes. It essentially looks like it's 9 different remixes of Genius of Love. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It lists all the track names as the remixer, you know, the person doing the remixing. Let's see, Tesla, be popular. God, there really is just so many good, solid titles in here. And a lot of times I'll look at these lists and I'm like, nobody cares. But there's always somebody that cares. But it's like, I look at the list and it's like, I don't know. But that's not the vibe I got from this list. And I still don't. I look at this and I'm like, this is pretty solid. I like this. I don't know why. But the 12-inch picture disc of Wicked with the Wicked Witch of the West on our broomstick. This is pretty cool. Talk about albums that are very difficult to get. They're doing the Tom Verlaine albums, 1979 to 1984. So what is that, his first 4 albums? 1, 2, 3, 4 on crystal clear vinyl. So it's a 4 LP box set, numbered to 2300. These should be pretty good. This will be popular because these are just difficult albums to get. You know, I don't know what it's going to sound like. I don't know how much of the artist's intent will be there in the remastering of these records. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm still thinking it'll be quite popular just because those albums are very difficult to get and they're not making a ton of them. The Yardbirds, Five Live Yardbirds. Cool, cool title. Okay, so that is, they kind of break up the list. That was the Record Store Day exclusive releases. These are going to be like the Record Store Day first releases, which theoretically could come back just with alternate coloring or artwork, that kind of thing. So now this is the RSD limited and regional focus release. Then the following things will be the stuff that could come back. But these, the regional releases, I don't know how the hell they characterize regional releases because we seem to get everything anyways. So I don't know. I don't really think maybe they put more quantity into a region. I don't know. Let's see. This is the part of the list where I'm like, I don't know. What is that? Is anybody going to buy that? I'm skimming. I'm not seeing. A lot of hip hop, a lot of stuff I don't know about. That's where I make some telephone calls and what do you think on this particular portion of the list? What should I be ordering? Maybe you guys can help me. Okay, the Record Store Day first release. Again, now we're like tons of stuff on here. The 1975 release will be very popular. It was one of the most popular releases from last Record Store Day. Let's see. What is this? Cannonball Adderley, live in France, 1969 by Elemental Music, 2 LP. Transfer from the original tapes. This looks good. Yeah, I'll be picking that up. That looks pretty good. The Amboy Dukes. This is interesting. Numbered to 1,400 of them. It's by Sundays. A lot of times Sundays does analog mastering. They don't specify that here, but they're using Kevin Gray to master a lot of their recent reissues. This looks pretty good. Chet Baker and Jack Sheldon. This is from Jazz Detective. This is an unreleased record. So this is a studio album. This isn't a live release. But 1,500, I mean, like, maybe they don't have very much faith in this unreleased record, but 1,500 just seems really light for an unreleased Chet Baker album. Even if it was a marginal Chet Baker album, you would think there's enough people that are, look at this, this all analog recording is mastered by Matt Luthans, who is kind of protege to Kevin Gray at the mastering lab. He spends time working with Kevin Gray at Coherent. He also spends time at the mastering lab, which is now owned by Analog Productions, or maybe it's their own individual company, but it's part of that Salina, Kansas group. So it looks like this was done at the mastering lab, then oddly pressed at Memphis Recording Pressing. You know, there's a plant right across the street. I don't know what the reasoning for that is, but that's cool. An analog, yeah, this is an analog, unreleased Chet Baker album, but they're only doing 1,500 of them? That's crazy. That seems light. All right, Bebop Deluxe. Really solid list. Really solid list. You know what you guys should do if you're still following this video? I'm curious, because this is a good way of always gauging. Tell me how many titles. Just give me or if you can even list the titles. But if you don't want to list the titles, just tell me the titles, how many titles you're going to pick up this Record Store Day. Live at the Tramps, De La Soul, 1996. That'll be really popular. And part of my top 3, here it is. Bill Evans. Everybody digs Bill Evans. This is all analog, cut by Kevin Gray from the original Monomaster tapes. So AAA. One of them, you know, Bill Evans is an artist, the Riverside stuff, that's been done quite a few times. But out of all the stuff on Riverside that he's had that has been done, everybody digs Bill Evans is kind of like on the, you know, it's mostly Waltz for Debbie, Live at the Village Vanguard. Those are the titles that get the most issues. But this particular mono pressing of Everybody Digs Bill Evans is going to be really popular. Really popular. They did the Art Pepper Meets the Rhythm section. That's probably along the same line of this series. They've done the Gil Evans, which I thought is fantastic, but it didn't sell that well last year. They also did the Kenny Dorham's Quiet Kenny. Everything with the Gil Evans has been really successful. It's gone up in value and is really popular on the secondary market. I think this is Bill Evans sells, man. Bill Evans probably sells better than Miles Davis, truth be told. This is going to be probably the best of the titles they've released so far in this series as far as desirability. This is going to be popular. 4,500 is the quantity on this. It's going to be popular with me anyways. Again, I've got a audiophile jazz focused clientele, so for me that's going to be extremely popular. The Flying Burrito Brothers, 1972 live. Okay, interesting. Not my thing. Another cool title. That's just like, this is like one of the many cool titles, and that is a 50th anniversary of Elton John's Caribou. But the quantity is 3,000. This is interesting. So it's a 2-disc set with some new radio mixes of a couple of tunes. I've not heard those radio remixes. I want to see, you know, I'm going to go into the store and see if I can stream them today. I don't know if that's an option. I don't have a radio, so. But it's on like baby blue vinyl. It matches the cover. That'll be popular. Not a lot of quantity. Yusef Lateef on Elemental, again, numbered to 1,500. It's a live concert. The jazz titles are always popular, but it seems, again, like the numbers have been pulled back. I'm sure I missed a ton. I'm sure a lot of guys are going to be like, oh my, how did you not mention such and such? But the list is quite good. Christian McBride will be popular. The Monkees, the Birds, the Bees, and the Monkees. I don't know how good of a title that's going to be for Record Store Day, but it does remind me, I actually had an original mono copy of that. It's one of the rarest mono. It's one of the very last mono records ever released, and one of the most difficult, most expensive original mono records you'll find. Clean copies of that record in mono are like $1,000. Bee Puppets live in Montana. I'll probably pick that up as well. It's from the 80s. It's an 80s show. Oh, God. Look, man, this really is a good list. The Rolling Stones live at the Racket. So right after they released their new album, they did one of their typical club performances at the Racket in New York City. It was like all the fat cats went there. You know, it was pretty much a concert just for rich people to bang their jewelry together. But it was released as a bonus disc on CD, but now the vinyl counterpart is going to be released for Record Store Day. So it's essentially a couple of hits. So is it Shattered, Tumbling Dice, Jumpin' Jack Flash, but also some new tracks: Whole Wide World, Angry, Bite My Head Off, and Sweet Sounds of Heaven, featuring Lady Gaga. Awesome. 7,000 copies. Not a huge number for a Rolling Stone release that every Rolling Stone fan is going to want to have in their collection. Really cool title. Oh, and it's right next to the Sonny Rollins, so I skipped over. 4LP. Looks like, I don't know if that's a box set or not. There's no details on it whatsoever. 1969 tour recordings, Sonny Rollins. 1959 tour recordings. Resonance Records, 2,500, 4LP. Maybe a box set or like a double fat gatefold. Sonic Youth, Pharoah Sanders, 7-inch, interesting. Couple of Sun Ra's, live in Chicago, 76, 77. That actually looks interesting. I'm going to pick up both of these. There's a television release to 2,500. Let's see, that's a 1992 concert. This is going to be a good Record Store Day. There's so many good titles on this list. Again, though, it's interesting because this isn't a bunch of stuff that, you know, it's not Taylor Swift, but there's so many good titles. It'll get people lined up. This is another sleeper. I play this in the store all the time. It's never come out on vinyl, I don't believe. But a while back, there was a 6 CD box set titled Lost Nuggets. This is essentially Spanish bands covering like American hits. Absolutely fantastic. Stream the Lost Nuggets. It's essentially 60s like Psych and Garage. But I play it in the store all the time. All the employees of it. My wife loves it. It's good. We listen to it all the time and people love it. But this isn't, of course, the 6 CDs worth of music. This is a 1 LP. Is this 1 LPs? Yeah. 1 LP. Really looking forward to this, having it on vinyl. They're only doing 1,000 of these. Most people probably have no idea what this is, but it's really good. You know, it is Please Please Me by the Los Mustang, or Satisfaction by Los Opson. You know, trust me, it's really good. You'll dig it. Let's see. South Park. Who, the story of the Who. Some Frank Zappa, Zappa for President. Neil Young. Effing Up. That looks interesting. There's a ton of releases on this. Let me know below. God, Mal Waldron, what is this? God, there's so many good. I don't want to sound like I'm gushing over this, but this is really above average, right? Wouldn't you guys say? Mal Waldron and Steve Lacy's. Ooh, the mighty Elemental Music. Quantity 1,500. So normally I order Record Store Day really heavy, and Record Store Day comes on pallets, and boy, this is going to be no exception. But yeah, help me out, guys. What are you guys looking for? Because I haven't placed an order yet, so I always like to kind of gauge the interest of people before I make orders. You know, what are you guys looking for? What do you kind of list it out? Help me out. What are you stoked for? Check us out online, guys, at theingroove.com. Until next time.